Welcome to Lesson 14, Introduction to Marketing. I am your trainer, and in this lesson we are going to be looking at marketing strategy. So why must you have a clear marketing strategy? That's the big question that we start with here. Well, first of all, it's very important that you know the difference between principles, strategy, and tactics. See, principles never change. They are a fundamental truth or proposition. And that means once you've got this sort of belief system in place and this reasoning, you then can look at something like Jay Abraham's 3 ways to grow your business. He says you increase the number of customers, you can increase how often they buy from you, and you can increase how much money they give you. That is a principle. That is a fundamental truth that serves as the foundation for a system of belief, okay, when we look at those principles. Strategy seldom changes, okay, and a strategy, when you look here, you see the top one says a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term or overall aim. It's very important. I'll come back to that in a moment. And then the next with strategy is the art of planning. Now, the reason why I wanted to make a point in this particular lesson of clarifying this is that, you see a lot of the words strategy and strategist and all the rest of it go for, but really when you're looking at a strategy, you're looking at the art of planning to achieve a long-term or overall aim. So when you look at a store like Walmart, they make no apologies for the fact that they tend to focus on the low end of prices. They sell a lot of stuff, and you find Walmarts in a lot of places. But then when you begin to move over and you look at a store like Oscar de la Renta, okay, where the average transaction is $3,000. I mean, there was an article the other day that says the average person at an Oscar de la Renta store spends $3,200. So you see, they have set a strategy to say, you know what, we're not going to have as many stores, but the ones we do have are going to be upmarket. And then finally, tactics, which always change. And the definition here, you see, an actionable strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end. But now we move a bit further, and this will make it a little bit more clearer for you. Method, okay? Tactics are methods. Move, approach, tack, path, road, device, and dare I say it, trick. All right? So tactics are always changing. Once upon a time, this was such a big part of people's marketing tactic. But now social media looks to move really at the forefront in digital marketing. And then even when we start looking and digging a little bit deeper, you see Facebook. All right, this was the original, interface when it first started. And now look at founder Mark Zuckerberg's profile. Just different. And you look at the 10-year roadmap that was done at F8 in early 2016, where they're talking about video and Messenger integrating their ecosystem with WhatsApp and Instagram. That's a long, long way from the original one. So you see, tactics are always changing. So therefore, you must know the difference between principles, strategy, and tactics. Principles are fundamental truths. Strategy is the overall aim. And tactics are the methods, devices, and yes, I'm going to use that word, tricks. So in this lesson, we are looking at principles of marketing strategy. And not according to me, according to this man, a legend. His name is Brian Tracy, a very, very impressive entrepreneur, author, and teacher as well. And he has a YouTube video which I can only call 25 minutes of pure gold, where he talks about the 4 principles of marketing strategy. And they are specialization, differentiation, segmentation, and concentration. Now you'll probably want to have your notebook and pen here just so you can write these different ones down, but they're very, very important that you can narrow down on them. So the first one, specialization, it's about doing a few things very well. It's This classic thing about not being all things to all people. You can specialize in a product or a service. It's easy to describe. So if you were that classic elevator pitch, if you're on the 10th floor and you go down just 3 or 4 floors and someone says, oh, by the way, what do you do or what do you provide? It's very easy for you to do that. And often you get to choose your market, which I'll go over again shortly. The next is differentiation. Be different from your competitors. So you've actually got to have a look. Normally I say don't spend too much time worrying about what they're doing, but you've always got to do that at the beginning, because then it helps you show how you are different, how you can have a competitive advantage. What will your customers value, and more important, what will they value to the extent they would pay you more money for? The third is segmentation. Modern marketers, I use that term, prioritize this, and this is where they sort of really get into that whole niche or niche marketing, really drilling down on that target audience. Clarity and positioning is very, very important when you begin to segment. Be open to changing your segments. This is very important for you to understand. Sometimes you could have something and you offer it one particular target audience, and then you offer the exact same thing to another target audience, and you can be very, very successful doing that. So, you want to be very clear and you want to position yourself accordingly. No, it's not a typo there where in the second one I put clarity and positioning, and then in the fourth I've put P, clear and position yourself. I just really want to make that point as you begin to segment. Really just be clear and position. Use sort of language where that particular niche, say, oh, you know what, that is for me, that product is for me, that service is for me. And then the final one is concentration. Alright, so now you are specialized, you've differentiated, you've segmented. Now you just need to focus. You need to eliminate distractions. You need to eliminate that sort of, that, dare I say it, curse that people get when they just get bored. They're doing something so well it's almost too easy. Okay, so you've got to stay focused, stay concentrated, and keep drilling down. So, know the difference. In summary, the principles, they never change. The strategy very seldom changes. You won't see Walmart all of a sudden saying, okay, forget the sort of low cost and many stores, we're going to go to this sort of different level. No, it seldom changes, and there is an overall aim with the strategy. And then, based on that, you can apply your tactics, your methods, your devices, and yes, your tricks. So that is the principles of marketing strategy. The 4 principles, once again: specialization, differentiation, segmentation, and concentration. And if you get the opportunity, please do go onto YouTube, look up the 4 principles of marketing strategy with Brian Todd, because as again, I only can describe that as 25 minutes of pure gold. And coming up next in lesson 15, we will talk about education-based marketing.